what are people thinking of the Arnaise?
Should we have the other wine and see which one we prefer?
Oh, okay.
So let's pull in wine number 2. So now, by the way, this is bottle number 1, Roero Arnaise, which is, there you go. And bottle number 2, Le Chiusere. And this is, okay, repeat after me, because you can repeat it, because I can't hear you. Erbeluce di Calusso. I can't see anyone's lips move. Erbeluce di Calusso.
I'll just go with the Erbeluce.
Okay. Italian wine's relatively easy. I say that, but it's not. It's like everything. Everything is easy as long as you understand it. And it's only taken me 27 years to realize that I've got no idea about Italian wine. The more you learn, the less you learn. So Erbeluce is the grape type, di Calusso, so from Calusso. And Calusso is lovely. It's a place called Piverone, and it's just as you enter up the valley. So you go above Torino, you take the road as if you're heading towards Mont Blanc, and it's just where the glacier ends that formed where you'll go skiing, the road that comes down through the Aosta Valley. And they've got this grape exclusively, Erbeluce, and they're clinging onto it like you would not believe, because all of the other areas plant Erbeluce as well, but the consortia won't let them put the grape name on any of the other wines in the area. It's causing absolute chaos, and it's really upsetting Camillo Fabro, who makes this wine, because he's saying, come on, guys, we've got to share the love. We've got to let all of the other producers in the area call their wine Erbeluce as well, but they're not doing it, which is causing problems. So this year he changed his bottle quite a lot, and he made the name of his vineyard Le Chiusere, the big bit, and the original wine, which is Erbeluce di Calusso, the official name, that's got much, much smaller on his typeface. And it's kind of a statement to say, I'm not happy with the region I'm in and the way they're behaving. We want to share and develop our native grapes. So anyway, this guy, as well as being a winemaker, is Italy's #1 writer on Burgundy wines. He's a top-selling Burgundy wine writer. He's a really fascinating guy. I'll show you what he looks like before we just start talking about them a little bit. So we'll share a screen and pop you in. There he is. So you've got him there. This is Camillo, and that's his dad, Benito. So super guys. And there's me with Camillo and his winery. Now, he's a tiny producer. He only makes 50,000 bottles in total. He's minuscule, and everything is sold out. Everything is on allocation. This is Piverone. So as you can see, you've got the lake, you've got the mountains in the background. That's the French Alps looking out towards Monviso. And just to the north, you're going up to Mont Blanc. That's beautiful. And you can see these vines, the way they're trained, not like the way they train them in England or France. They're trained off on trellises quite high. It's a very different style of winemaking. It's totally unique, really. It's more mountain style winemaking. And this is a serious wine. I mean, this really is. We're lucky to have this. It's Tre Bicchieri in the Gambero Rosso. More intensity, more power. You almost get that mineral iron, salty feel to this wine.
It's lovely. I really like that as well. And we're being asked, do the farmers get a grant for growing the wines out in Italy? Not anymore.
There was a time when there are some areas where it's so difficult to make wine that they're almost paying people to take on the vineyards. But that's when you're going to the crazy places where they're on angles like this. We buy from one. Well, actually, we're tasting it later. When we get to Donas is 50 old men who have a cooperative, so they all group together to make the wine. And whenever one dies, the cooperative gets that little bit smaller because nobody's stupid enough to take their place. and you'll you'll understand why when I show you the pictures. Because it's a commercial. You would not advise making wine there, Charlie. It would be, if you put your money head on, you'd think to yourself, what are you doing, you silly idiots, silly old men.
And somebody else in the chat has asked, has this been stored in oak?
No, amazing. Well, actually, a tiny part is stored in oak. And I really do mean a small part, about 5 or 6% of the wine, because he's only got 2 tonneaux, so 2 500-litre barrels. So around 900 litres of this wine out of the full 15,000 bottles is stored in oak. So really none at all. You're getting that fatness and richness of flavour from it being stored on the yeasts. And some of it also spends a bit of time in these eggs, concrete eggs that they're fermented in.
And Herba Luce, they can make a dessert wine from it as well, can't they? Does this guy make a dessert wine as well, or not?
Sometimes, but dessert wines you do for vanity, really. You can't make money, because the way you make dessert wine is you have to pick the individual grapes, dry them. So you dry them over the winter months, you raisin them, you lose 2/3 of your production, you lose between 1/3 and 2/3 of the juice. And you have to keep an eye on it. It takes longer to make. And then people get upset that it costs 50 quid a bottle. And you think to yourself, but hang on a second, I've just squeezed 5 bottles into 1 bottle. So he does make one sometimes, but he makes one every 2 or 3 years. And yeah, I will buy some Herba Luce di Caluso occasionally as a dessert wine, but it's really hard to get your mitts on, actually. Well spotted, Charlie. So
I told you a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, isn't it? I'm going to put my foot in at some point.
Yeah, you've got me there. It's but this area is lovely. So if you look up here, the main wine is Herba Luce, but it's also, the region is called the Canavesi region. It's the people of the Canavesi, and then Nebiolo. Oh, it's absolutely fantastic, because we were talking about global warming, and in the old days, when you got this far up, you couldn't ripen red grapes. Nowadays, no problem. We should party while the world's burning. This is the best time in the history of the earth for producing Nebiolo. I can't believe it's going to get any better. So right now, the quality of the recent vintages is astonishing. I mean, it really is. And Canavesi red Nebiolo wines are just so beautiful. I would have loved to have given you one tonight, but we can only do 6 wines, and we wanted to keep it interesting. So yeah, what else have we got on the questions down there? I think most grants. Yeah, you're quite right. Agriturismo. Well, that's a really good remark. I pop that there. It's exactly right. And a lot of these producers have done agriturismo. Camilo hasn't, because he's busy writing books, and he's just adopted. Where does the child come from, Ems? Is it? I'm going to put it down there. What's the son called? It took him 4 years or something to do it. Yeah, you're right. They do hard boil the concrete first before they store the wine in it.
He's just adopted Stephen from Cuba, aged 7.
Yeah. Wow. So he's just a really nice guy. There aren't many. They're astonishing. I love people like this, because they are quite closed communities. This part of Italy, these are mountain people up here. Not many outsiders come in, and well, we're over the moon to have this. Which do people like of the 2 whites? I'm just curious. Probably the easiest way to do it is just wine number 1. Raise a hand. Yeah, we've got a few ones kicking out there. Yeah, and number 2. Yeah, overall, I think 2's. Well, you'll be surprised to hear 2's a little bit more expensive. What would you pay for 2? Let's see some prices come up on the chat line and see how close you all get.
I think it's just, what number 1 is a great sort of wine for just drinking on its own. Lovely barbecue wine type thing, wouldn't it? In the summer on the patio type thing. Whereas number 2 is more interesting and would hold up better with food, I suspect.
I'm with you, Charlie. This is dinner party wine, really, isn't it? This is very posh aperitivos if you're showing off a bit, and because I don't think you can buy white wines much better than this. You know, you've got the intensity and the power that you get from a really good Sauvignon, and some of the richness you get from nice Chardonnay. I mean, it's an astonishing wine, I believe. What sort of prices are coming up? 20. Yeah, you see, God, you're quite good, you lot. Are you Googling this?
Well, you did give them a hint that it was more expensive, didn't you? No, they are. They're doing very well. So I actually don't know what the price is, but
they're pretty much. I mean, do you know what? I used to get upset when people went low on the prices when I asked people to do this. I just think, oh, they don't really understand what I'm selling and all of this rubbish. And that was when I was younger. I don't really care anymore. But nowadays, I get more upset when you go high, because I think, oh, I could have charged more for it. I've missed an opportunity there somewhere. I don't really think that at all. It's quite good fun. What is it, Em? If you put the price up, Tran? Yeah, cool. It's there. Yeah, you've got it. I couldn't remember myself. That's why I had to ask. Funnily enough, our business, Emma, some of you will have spotted on the screen, Emma and I have worked together for 27 years. So Batten Bottle's been in Oakham since 2003. An awful lot of people don't really realise we were even here, which kind of suits me fine to a degree. Quite like being under radar. But we moved from Staffordshire to Scotland in 2003. We went via Italy. It took us 6 months to get from Stafford to Stamford, which is quite a long time actually. Not many people take that long to make that journey.
You used to do Saturday, on a Saturday morning, you would open a bottle of wine or a number, and people would just rock up, try a little bit of each. And do you still do that? I mean,
they're coming back, Charlie. I mean, COVID's sort of shaken those things up a bit, but those tastings are coming back a little bit now, because we didn't do it for a year or two just because we were worried about washing glasses and health and safety. But as we come into Christmas now, then I think the bottles are starting to, the corks are loosening again, which is good to see. It's been very disturbing having to stop doing that sort of thing.
Yeah. The few times I ever popped in, it was just a lovely. The only difficulty was it was a Saturday morning. You'd got 3 or 4 wines lined up, and I'm thinking, I can't be tucking into 3 or 4 wines on a Saturday morning.
Go to the rugby in the afternoon to get the train from Oakham and wander in. It's and Tigers are winning this season. It's a good year. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can say that again. We've got a few Saints fans on the call, I think.
Can we block them? No, it's fair enough. They play well the other day. Now, should we go into the Reds anyway and have a bit of fun with it? Any questions on the whites that I've missed?
Yeah, any questions that people want to ask? Yeah. If you do, just unmute.
Yeah, that's fair.
Please do unmute.
Yeah, no,
don't leave it all to me. One thing that I was actually amazed about, that I didn't know until I started Googling Italian wine today. Apparently, Italy produces more wine than any other country in the world.
Yes.
That really surprised me.
What did you think was number one before?
Pardon?
What did you think was number one?
Well, I'd have said historically, I would have assumed it was France, but with the quantity that Australia churns out nowadays, I'd have thought, but apparently Australia aren't even in the top 3.
They don't count. No, they're not. No. So, I mean, it's if you looked at this 10 years ago, it was really interesting, because 10 years ago, France sold more wine than Italy, but Italy made more wine than France, which kind of shows just
how good a drinkers the Italians are.
How good they were at selling wine. And I mean, wines traditionally had fantastic amounts of fraud in it, and it's starting to become more controlled now. Because remember the old days when Van de Table was massive. When was the last time you bought a bottle of table wine when you actually didn't know what was in the bottle? The old days of Piador and Cuvée Jean Paul and all of these sort of things. They've all gone. All of the table wines have disappeared. And I can't remember the last Italian one we bought, which was. Having said that, Il Tavernella is still the top-selling Italian supermarket wine. and it's just generic bag and box stuff, or comes in orange juice cartons actually. So it's still around, but yeah, no, Italy is. It's number one.
I was really surprised by that, but yeah, it makes sense.
And in terms of land prices, I'll tell you a little bit about that as we head through these. But if you're buying in the region, that lovely lake area where you just looked at, the land around there is about 20,000 euros a hectare. So 2.5 acres costing you about 18 grand to buy the property. When you go to Barolo, it's closer to 2.5 million now for a decent plot of land. And 2.5 hectares or a hectare will give you around 6,000 bottles in Barolo. It'll give you around 8,000 to 9,000 bottles in the Canavesi. But when we go up to some of the high altitude stuff that we'll taste in a second, you only get 4,000 or 5,000 from the land there because the acidity is higher. Anyway, we'll head into wine number 3. Pour the first of the reds.
Ben, you've got a question from David. What height are the vineyards at Favaro? I can't find it in our records.
It's about 450 meters, roughly. Actually, I've got it on my phone. I do this thing. Does anyone do this as well with their iPhone sometimes, where you if you go to the north, south, east, west thing on your phone, it will also show you the altitude that you're at, which is really, really handy. So I can actually open the photo folder that I've got for Favaro, and I was hoping to show off just how organized my system was here, but I'm not going to be able to. Oh yeah, I can. Brilliant. There we go. I'll just share it. So I'll crack that open. Open with photos, and let's share that. Okay. So I haven't quite got that on you, have I yet? So if I haven't left it, I feel like I'm muttering now. I've lost the share button on my computer. There it is. Okay, here we go. So can you now see Favaro here? So we're actually not as high as I thought. 250 meters. You're in the entrance to the way in. And this is the direction of his vineyard. So the vineyards are pointing north-northwest. I tend to take a screenshot of exactly where I am now in a vineyard. So that is, you've got Piemonte, Favaro, written by hand over the top. So actually the altitude, 250 meters, is about the same as Barolo is. So it's not as high as I thought. The main thing about this though is you're getting the winds coming down off the mountains. So the vineyards here just have a constant air movement coming down off the Monte Rosa and the Monte Bianco. So you're getting, it's actually a really interesting area for just cooling breezes, I think is the best way of putting that. Any other questions to cover on the whites before we disappear into the reds?
I've already disappeared into the reds.
Well done. Yeah, because I was going to say I'm getting slow again. I'm talking too much. So we're heading down to my friend Andrea now, who's one of my all-time. I've had him cleaning my van before now. I had him opening the bowling for me actually once in a cricket match, which he's never played cricket before. He wasn't a very good bowler.
Can he get to Australia in the next couple of weeks?
We could probably use him. I think he's going to do as well as most of our players are at the moment. But I'll show you what Andrea looks like. So I'll just go back to sharing the screen quickly while I'm talking to you. And this is Andrea with our very own English winemaker, Matt. Matt works in our warehouse as well and makes wine in Melton Mowbray at Walton Brook. And he's actually done really, really well. And he lives in Oakham, and Abigail's Vintage Bridal, if any of you are getting married in a vintage frock in the next few days. Actually don't, it's got a very long lead time.
Yeah.
So there's Andrea. And this also, some of you might know Hanu. Hanu lives up at, where does Hanu live? He lives Burley on the Hill. He's just up there. And this is his car. So Hanu turned up in rather nice Alpha there. Andrea's a total petrol head. He used to supply the wine for the Ferrari racing Formula One team until Santander started sponsoring them, and they had to start drinking Rocca. Apparently, it caused mayhem at the Ferrari that they had to start drinking that. But he supplied them in the good old days when Coulthard was swapping a bottle of whiskey for a bottle of Nizza d'Alba at 3 o'clock in the morning before racing the next day. I don't think they do that anymore in Formula One. They're a bit more mature than that now. And this is the vineyard from, that's pretty gorgeous. That's a view from Andrea's office, a UNESCO site. So when you think about Asti, in Barbera, you have Alba and you have Asti. Alba's the wine town, which the Barolo, Barbaresco, it's Nebiolo town. Asti is Moscato and Barbera. So the Barbera we're drinking is called Barbera d'Asti. So Barbera from Asti. It's got no wood aging on it at all. It's a single vineyard wine, 2018 vintage, which was a really weird vintage. 2018 was super hot. And it was almost tropical in style. It had 20 centimeters of growth on a vine in one day. This is one of the most crazy vintages of all time. And I think it's turned into one of my favorites, because it could have been a travesty, but it's just not. It's just so fresh and lovely and gives you such richness of fruit. Really controlled tannins. Tannins are those drying things. You know when you drink cheap claret and you find your cheeks just glued to the side of your mouth and you have to peel them off your gums. That's the tannin. So when you've cooked your tea for too long, and it dries your mouth out, you steep it. So Barbera doesn't have too much tannin. It's got a lovely freshness to it and quite high acidity. So it goes really well with tomato dishes. And Barbera, it's seen as the poor cousin of Barolo. And I feel a bit sorry for them, because the Barolo producers don't like the people of Asti to plant Nebiolo, because then there would be too much Nebiolo and it might interfere with their money making. But it's starting to come through a little bit now, and they've come back at it by producing their very own version of Barolo, which is called Nizza. And Nizza is a town which is dedicated to Barbera. So if you want to drink the best Barberas, try some Nizza. Salute. And oh, by the way, if you want a really good agriturismo, this guy and his Mrs. Zara, they run it's got a swimming pool, restaurant, beautiful, lovely people to look after you. Short plane trip into Torino. It's magnificent. Highly recommended. Look up Villeggiata Agriturismo. You will absolutely adore it. Mention my name and he probably won't take the booking. Cheers.
and so what would a see with Barbera d'Asti, you also get a superior, don't you?
Yeah.
So what's the difference? What makes it superior? Some superior?
Alcohol is number one, so it has to be 0.5% higher in alcohol, and you have to age it for a little bit as well. So sometimes superiore is geographical in space, but Asti is quite a big region, but here it's alcohol and it's aging. What was that? You got it? Cool. And yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, Barbera. Oh, I'll just tell you one little story because it'll amuse some of you, because I know some of you will love your Argentinian Malbec. And one of the reasons I like Argentine, I don't really like it to drink very much. I don't like it that much. But Barbera was being planted all over Argentina because a lot of Italians moved to Argentina. And we thought that Barbera was going to be knocked out by the Argentinian market. And then fortunately, Malbec became super popular. And they started pulling up all the Barbera and planting Malbec. So cheers to Malbec. You saved Barbera in Italy. So yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
Although we're going to come on to, I was going to mention Argentina with the next wine, so I'll say, but the next wine has a Bonarda, which also Argentina are having a pop at, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So
yeah.
maybe we'll come back to that next time. I think this is lovely. I love Barbera d'Asti. I think it's a really, Barolos are lovely, but you wouldn't want them as your barbecue, to go back to that barbecue patio wine, you wouldn't want a Barolo for that, would you? Whereas a Barbera d'Asti is a much easier drinking, lovely wine.
Yeah, it's fresh. It's good. And it's got that lovely acidity. So if you're having tomatoes, you're having pasta, you're having pizza. If I had to, if I had to choose one wine to be the passport for Italy, I think I might choose Barbera Dasti. Actually, it's just really classic.
And you mentioned Argentina, but there are some Barberas popping up from around the world. I remember seeing Barberas from Australia, definitely. I have a feeling I might have even seen one in South Africa. They are popping up around. What do you think of the New World?
I'm really looking forward to it because I feel that Italy have missed out a bit because all of these what we call in the trade sort of New World countries. It's not New World at all anymore. But if you go to Argentina, how many Italian grape types do you see being sold? Go to Australia, how many Italian? It's all Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Shiraz. I mean, it's dull as ditchwater, really. It's all of the French stuff. So I want to see Primitivo, Zinfandel, Negro Amaro, Nero di Troia, Primitivo, Barbera. And they're calling Barbera the climate change grape, because it doesn't seem to mind extraordinary heat. So bring it on. Yeah, no, I really like them actually, Charlie. I'm all in favour of other countries planting it. Because the more the better. You know that thing, more competition, the better your wine gets. Simple.
Yeah. Ben, you've got a couple of questions.
What are they?
What temperature is the wine stored at before it's bottled?
Oh, well, actually, before it's bottled. Depends when it's bottled, of course, but most of these wines are bottled in the springtime before the temperature picks up for two reasons. One, the big trade show is in April, so people like their wine bottled before the big trade show. And the temperature in April or in March is usually, what's temperature in March? Usually about 16 degrees. So they're not chilled. So whoever's asking the question, they're bottled at an ambient temperature. They're very rarely knocked out. Or this one isn't, because they do it unfiltered. Some of the bigger producers kill the temperature on the wine to knock the tartrates out. Now I'm getting a bit technical, and whoever asked it may have wanted the technical side of this. So the tartrates are the things that you see on the bottom of the cork. Those very clear things that you can they look like little white crystals. And they're nothing to do with crystal meth, which Charlie would have spotted. Of course, I know nothing about. and you go to the bottom of these things, but in order to stop those falling out in your wine, you chill the wine down. These guys don't do that. So this is actually bottled with the lightest of filtrations and with no stabilization. So it's bottled at ambient temperatures. Is the answer to that. And also bottled with a screw top, which is slightly unusual in Italy. The Italians still don't really like screw tops very much. So this is the label, Villeggiata.
Even the white wines were corked, weren't they? Which again is even more unusual, I would suggest.
It is in the UK. And the biggest UK importer is a firm called Liberty, and they are massive. They force their producers to bottle under Stelvin or screw top. Because I am so small, I have to do whatever the producers got. And I don't really want to change the producers. We've always worked on the basis that, we buy wines that we like. We don't try and get producers to change. We either get on with them or we don't. It's quite a nice way of doing business. So, our basic business theory has always been to try and find customers for our wines, not wines for our customers. We just buy the stuff we like. We're not really that interested in what other people like. That's very...
one question that is being asked is the alcohol percentage of this, which is 14%, because I just looked at it for you, save you a job.
I would say slightly better. So
yeah. Oh, really? Slightly, is that conservative, is it? But the general consensus is that people seem to really like this wine. There's a few comments. I really like that wine.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic wine. His top wines this year were all coming out at 16% alcohol.
Wow.
Which,
but he doesn't put that on the bottle, I suspect.
You have to pay more tax if you put 16, and people get it very nervous when they see 16. Yeah. So, if you're allowed half a percentage leeway, and you can do a few things, try and get the percentages down a bit. But they were powerful wines, but they've got that lovely acidity and freshness, so they don't feel alcoholic. Usually when you have an alcoholic wine, you feels hot and goppy in your mouth, but these are really clean and fresh and lovely. So Hope you enjoy them very much. What do people think overall? Have you got the prices right? Let's see some prices on this.
Let's see a price. I have no idea what the price is of this one.
I'll do a quick share screen on this. I just found another one of Andrea and I, which is quite funny. There you go. There's Andrea. That's just down the road from his place. And the snow is that good this year. That is me on a board and Andrea, who is a very good skier, actually.
Snow is that good, but nobody's going to see it.
I'm going to see it. It's going to be all right. We're going to get out there.
You're going to get out there, are you? I'm not sure we are.
It's going to be good. We're going to win.
Right. So we've got a couple of £16, £14, and a couple of 18.
Oh, you're going to enjoy this, aren't you, Em? When you put the price up for this.
21.
Oh, try turning that round. You're all wrong. You're miles off.
12.50.
12.
Well, you've missed an opportunity, Ben. You could be charging more for this.
No, I've got, but it's brilliant wine, and I don't understand why I don't sell more of this. I just don't.
I suspect you might after tonight.
Customers drive me mad. They really do. They don't buy what they're supposed to. And this is fantastic. Mind you must feel like that as well, customers. Mind you can't say
only occasionally.
More of your customers here than I have of mine. There are a few of you there. I can see you there, and you're used to being insulted if you're my customers. Usually, most of you just have to work on. So yeah, lovely wine. Let's move on to the second red anyway, so that we are on, because we're ticking along at a nice speed, and we've got 3 to go. So that is fantastic. Wine number 4, which is Le Marie Rouge de Lissard, which sounds very French. Rouge, because rosso would be Italiano. It is a very French area, this. It's an area called the Pinerolesi. And you're very, very close to some epic skiing, actually. This is Sous-Edou and all that. And Montgenèvre is just on the other side. It's just north of the Fréjus tunnel. For all of you who like that part of it, I'll just do another quick map shot. If anyone can see this, we're up here, basically. We're just coming through the Fréjus and you're back there. This is the Pinerolesi, which is up there. And this is fascinating. This is what they call a field blend. So they've mixed up all of this is old school winemaking. You would have quite liked researching this, I would have thought, Charlie, because it's got.
I struggled with this one. This was a nightmare. You've got
bugger. Yeah. I've given you a few. There are a whole lot of grapes you've never heard of before.
Yep.
Chatters. Nobody's heard of Chatters.
No.
Used to be mistaken for Nebiolo. You've got Freisa, which is really interesting grape, actually, and still very misunderstood. Bonada, as you say, been appearing in Argentina. And Neretta, you haven't got to hope with Neretta. Nobody knows what Neretta is. You're in good company. You know, it's one of those, I just put it there to confuse people. But all of the grapes are planted basically, or they're all picked and fermented together. And this was a bit hard a few months ago. And I opened a bottle of this, well, when I was pouring these small bottles out, actually. And I saw, bloody hell, that's tasting good. It's delicious. Oh, that's lovely. Absolutely lovely.
I can't quite place what wine I would compare that with. It's unusual. I think that's absolutely lovely, but it's quite unusual. The sort of flavor it's got, you expect it to be more higher tannins, and yet actually it's slightly smoother than it feels like it should be. I don't know what. Can you give me a wine that you'd kind of relate that to?
Well, I'd be really interested to see anyone out there who thinks that they've got something which you think this is similar to. Please ping it into the board there, because I find it really difficult as well. Because the tannins, this hasn't got any oak aging on it, so it's not from the oak. This is from the tannins within the grape types. There's a real intensity to it. There's a richness, because I was thinking it's quite almost old school clarity. Some of that tannic feel you get. Then you get that spicy, rony kind of slow blueberry, that sort of thing. Red currant. Really interesting. I was trying to work out what I thought it tasted like, and I can't think of anything similar. Yeah.
We're getting mixed reviews on this one. So
yeah, you will. This is a Marmite wine. I did put this on purpose because I know that there's nothing worse than everyone liking all of the wines at a wine tasting. You know, you have to have a couple which just push you a little bit, and this one does push some people.
Yeah, I'm getting medicinal comments here, but also a very nice wine, stronger smell, but delicious also. I actually really like this. But what would you pair this with?
You need food with this, don't you, Charlie?
What food?
I think you go rustic and you have lots of fat. So over in this part of Italy is bean stews. It's so sort of heavier dishes. A lot of risotto around here as well. So it'd be really nice with a meat risotto. I'll do a quick
Maybe
share.
some wild boar.
I think a bit of wild boar would work.
Wild boar ragu. Yeah.
Show you the boss. Here's the boss. Okay, here we go. Share. So there you go. That was when we were allowed to go to Italy. And there's the boss. Here's the family. So father, son, and daughter. Another really nice small business. But here you go. See the mountains in the background up here. So you're just in the foot, and it's very, very deep clays. And this is, when I say it's got no aging, it is actually aged in these, but these don't give any wood flavour because they're so big. These little barrels down here give wood flavouring because you've got the newer, there's less wine to wood ratio. This label's for there. So this is, what are we drinking? There we go. That's what we want. So beautiful place, quite high up. Height-wise, we're at about 340 meters. So again, not very high, but again, you're getting those cooling winds coming straight off the mountains here. It's a really fascinating area. And this family, or actually, when I say don't know what to have it with, I may even have a picture of me drinking, eating. I don't want to show you foods and pictures of me eating, but we've got, there we go. We had it with some really old Parmesan actually at a tasting, and that works. 15-year-old Parmesan they served us, and then they took us to a monastery for lunch, where it wasn't a monastery anymore. Fortunately, it was just blooming good food. In fact, there you go. I'm trying to work out what actually is sitting on the plate here. See if any of you can pick it. We need to zoom in a bit on that, don't we? So let's zoom in a bit on the food. What is that? You can see me again, but what have we got there?
Big lump of meat of some sort.
It looks like meat. Yeah, that's what we want, isn't it? A huge lump of meat.
I have to say, I've got some salami that was bought from Otter's Deli that was supposed to be on your for those of the few of you that were supposed to be attending in person. Lined up
having to eat all the food.
I've got that. I'm sharing it with, I think, Angela and Charlotte, but it works really well with salami. Lovely sort of a nice fatty meat.
Yeah, I think that's good. But fat's what I'm saying. So it's got some nice acidity, hasn't it, to cut through? But this is a bit rustic. So, after the Barbero, which I'd say is really balanced, quite an elegant wine, actually. And then you go to this, which is a bit more, it's a bit more up and at 'em. And then we're going to get elegant again with wine number 5. So we go to wine number 5. And this is the one I was talking about. This is where we go climbing up mountains. And this is, I'm just fascinated to know what you think. So this is a cooperative. And the cooperatives was sort of born out of really after World War I, when a lot of the people's, this was very poor up here in those days, and people couldn't afford to live on their farming salaries, so they'd sort of moved into the cities, a lot of depopulation, and they couldn't make wine themselves, so they grouped together to have a winemaking facility, and that's a cooperative or a cooperativo. And I'm just going to start off by showing you actually what this place looks like, because before you even taste it, you need to understand what this place looks like. It's properly insane, arguably the most insane place we buy wine from. Are you ready for this? Properly, here we go.
Building this up,
I know. And if you don't, okay, have you got it? Have you got that vineyard? How
No, it's
mad?
pretty-
How mad is that? You see these are wooden, look, as we go in, these are wooden, these are stone posts supporting each row of vines. They built all of these terraces, carried the earth up the side of the hill to backfill into it, to get it planted. This is one of the maddest places on earth to make wine. So when you wonder why, and the only way of getting you might even be able to see it, there's a little train system. I'll just see if I've got the picture of the train. Because you can't get a tractor up here. That's a path running up there. And it's, I mean, you should have seen Emma's face. She's not very good with heights. When we've been driven up there, she was not a happy woman at all. Not a happy woman. Let's see if we can, here we go. This is down at the bottom of the valley. As you can see, it's pretty steep. That's the co-op. I'll just quickly whiz through. She's lovely. That, as you can see, is this year because she had a mask on, because we did get, here's Donas. Now, this is why Donas is brilliant. As I said, it's 50 old men who basically grow the vineyards. This is the cooperative, this building. And inside, at the top here is a restaurant where you'll find 49 of the old men. Downstairs, the other one will be working in the office down here. In the basement there is where they make the wine. So there's a bar, a basement, and a stupid big bottle outside. It's one of the craziest places on earth. Here you go. You get some idea here of just how mad it is. So it's here we're going up to the vineyards stop here at around 650 meters. So at the bottom, you're closer to 350. Let's just whiz through, but you can see it's just glorious. Absolute super insanity. Imagine climbing up here with bucketfuls of grapes. You've got to be mad to do all that. So properly insane. Maybe the most extreme wine merchant or wine. It's one of the craziest places to make wine on earth. It really is. So anyway, what do you think of the wine? That's the important thing. So it's Nebiolo. In the old days, this would have been called skiing wine because it was the lighter Nebiolos. In fact, Donas 10 years ago, you just never got a decent vintage because they never ripened the grapes. Thanks.
This is not all Nebiolo, is it? We have a couple of other
It's a bit
lesser
of
known
Nayrat
ones.
and a bit of Fraser. How did you do on your Nayrat research?
I didn't do any NARAT research. I suspect I would have hit a blank.
It's a bugger to find, Charlie. If you ever want to, this is the book you need. There you go.
Right, okay. I was actually, so the book I was annoyed. I couldn't find it today. There's a brilliant book called Thirsty Work by a guy called Matt Skinner that just puts it in very layman's terms. And he's like the Jamie Oliver of wine. In fact, he used to work with Jamie Oliver. So I was going to look up all of these wines but I think it must be in the office. I couldn't find it today. It's a great book. But I think this is lovely as well. I think this is.
See, for me, this is how Barolo was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So less tannin, smoother, very approachable.
This is much more approachable than your typical Barolo, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
For sure.
Yeah. And these are really nice prices for these sort of style of wines. Well, when I say really, you've just seen how the poor buggers make it. Well, I found it. I'll just share this because I was hoping I could find this shop because it's this is how the grapes get up and down the mountain. Because you can't, look at that. That's that little train there. It's totally insane. So that's how they whiz them up and down the hill. There's no other way of doing it. It's proper insanity.
And I understand Nebiolo kind of translates to fog, doesn't it?
Yeah, or Nebbiolo's cloud.
Cloud, is it?
Yeah, so Nebiolo, it's because in the Langhe where Barolo is made, traditionally the fog would settle over the vineyards until around lunchtime and then it would blow off. So you would get these wines. It means that you get a very cool, long growing season. Because grapes are like apples. You know, the longer the growing season, the better. It just stretches out the delicacy and the flavors, the intricacies. What do people think anyway? Is this because some of you have had Barolo before? because that's what we're sort of building to. You know, we've got 2 Nebiolos to finish with here. You're thinking Piemontese wines, what's it all about? We know that Barbera works, and honestly, cheap Barbera from supermarkets is good. You know, it's one of those wines. There are 2 Italian wines, or maybe 3. I call them the Volvos of the Italian wine industry. So you can drive them as badly as you like, and the chances are that you're just going to kill somebody else and you'll be fine. The Montepulciano d'Abruzzo, that just fantastic. You know, what other term for them is curry house classics. You know, where you look at the curry house wine list and you just think, no, what do I drink? And Montepulciano d'Abruzzo is really hard to get wrong. Soave, amazingly, is nearly always pretty handy, and Barbera d'Asti is another. So, you know, all of these wines, good in supermarkets, good in curry houses, but at the top end are quite a lot better. Wines like this, there is only one producer in Donas. Well, actually, there are 2. I found another one. I've got the sample sitting in my room. I'm quite excited about that. We're going to actually drink those when I get back out. Yeah, good idea. And it's a tough job. You know, this is work. I just want to emphasize. But Donas is the cooperative and one more producer. So you won't find this anywhere else. This is only me who ships it. And it's, whether you like it or not, I just love this stuff. It's a piece of history. You know, there's nothing else. There's another wine. The next village down is called Carema, and Carema's got a lot of young, cool guys who've moved in there, and they are charging 2 to 3 times as much for the same wine. And we've fallen for that too, because that's glorious wine too, but God, it's expensive. I don't know if you found Carema on your searches as well, Charlie. It's these are hard to find.
I don't think I even looked for that.
Yeah, do you know, it's difficult. If you're going to do, you've got to be an absolute anorak to have done the research on this area. It's where I become semi-obsessive.
Well, I actually think. I mean, I think that Italian wine is the most interesting that I've kind of scraped the surface of, because I've always been more for my New World wines, and I love my New Zealand wines and South African wines in particular. But every time I go to Italy or explore Italian wines, it feels like, more so than French wine, it feels like a really interesting journey. And well, I'm hoping other people are experiencing this as well. But yeah, there just feels like there's a lot to kind of uncover in Italy.
It's just so much genius there, isn't it? I mean, Italy's a fascinating place. They're mad. You know, every region is a wine region. So when you go to France, some regions don't really do wine. You go to Normandy, they're more into their Calvados and things. Go to Italy, every single one doesn't really consider themselves Italian. In fact, they don't even consider themselves a region. So if you ask an Italian where they come from, usually go, I'm from Turin, or I'm from Canavesi, or I'm from Biella, or from Gattinara. But then they go to their region, they might say, I'm Piemontese, and it's thirds down. So, you know, it'd be rather like us saying, oh, I'm Oakham, I come from Oakham. Then you'd say, I come from Rutland, then I come from England, you know, for foreigners, as if you'd expect foreigners, poor old foreigners, when you say I come from Rutland and you try and tell them it's a region. I love it in a place like Piemonte. You know, Rutland is 147 square miles. Piemonte is 9,800 square miles. So when you say, oh, I come from Rutland, I go, is that a region? I go, yeah, like Piemonte. Sort of like Piemonte. Not very like Piemonte at all, perhaps, but you know, it's it's good fun. Anyway, so very interesting wine. Donas is actually the only one where we broke the rules on this. It's not quite in Piemonte. It's the next village out of Piemonte. But I didn't think you'd mind too much. How much do you think it's all worth? Anyway, I'll show you the labels. Quite right. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Put in the chat what you think it would be worth. So just while people do,
after Donas,
the little bit of research I did was that Nebiolo, being a farmer's son, I was quite interested that Nebiolo you harvest significantly later than Barbera. In fact, by the sounds of it, you kind of almost have you've got the Barbera in the barrels before you start harvesting the Nebiolo.
You're spot on.
What impact does that have on the flavor and the wine that we drink?
It gives the grapes have more time, more hang time, if you like. Gives it more time for the flavors to develop in the grape. So, you know, it's rather like if you taste South African apples versus English apples, the flavors that develop in the apple from the UK, where they've just had much longer, they're more marked. It's like roses as well. Long, slow growing seasons give more interesting flavors. So Nebiolo is, and it also used to cause massive problems because it would be cold by the time they pick the grapes, which can be a problem. But Barbera, yeah, the first one to come in is the Chardonnay, and then the Moscato comes in, and then the Dolcetto comes in, and then the Barbera, and then the Nebbiolo. It's quite good that they all come in at different times. It means you can just keep your pickers hanging around for a month. But Nebbiolo it used to be that they'd be picking at the beginning of November. Again, global warming's changed that. So we're now picking, really, it's closer to October. So second week of October. Classically, you're bringing in the grapes now. That's when they were this year.
And with that, so that makes me think that, you know, you in Germany, for example, you have ice vines, don't you? So some of the sweet wines, they actually leave until the first frost.
Yeah.
Do we get? I know we get red dessert wines from Italy. Do we get Nebiolo dessert wines?
No, because you've got a fair point though. And if you're falling asleep, just yawn at me at some point now.
Sorry, that would be my fault.
I can't see any, so that's very. Oh, I've got one. Thank you. That's quite right. I'll do it quickly. So the difference between red and white wine is just the skins. So if you peel the grape, the juice on the inside is the same. So you can make sweet wines from red grapes, but it's quite unusual. You don't get very many. So Amarone, the sweet version of that, is called the Recioto, and that would be the same thing. There are a few sweet Nebbiolos. In fact, we tasted one. If you wanted me to get Barry Anorak, if you all put your thumbs up, I might try and find it, but you've got to all do it, and it'll take me a few minutes to dig out. But we tasted a Nebiolo sweet wine from the 1800s, where I had to use I can't remember how he got the cork out. I took a video of the whole thing, and it still tasted of wine, even though this wine was 300 years old. And it was a sweet Nebiolo, and actually all the color had fallen out the wine. It's just staggering. So you can make sweet Nebiolo, but it's not very fashionable anymore. It's a good shout though, Charlie. Yeah, you don't see the one sweet wine you do get from Barolo. Can anyone pick out the sweet? Okay, put it in the chat thing if you can. I just want to see how Anorak, we've got an audience we have. If somebody can tell me what the sweetest wine from Barolo is, the closest to a sweet wine from Barolo, certainly an after dinner rather than a with dinner wine.
Well, I know I'm kind of not sure whether the one that I'm thinking of is more of a Tuscan wine rather than a.
You're on Vinsanto, aren't you?
Vinsanto, exactly.
Yeah, that's Tuscany. You can't have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're going to have
Which
to.
I only found out today that is holy wine. That's what it translates to, isn't it?
Yeah, and the way it's made, you're in the lap of the gods as to whether it'll work or not, because they used to seal the barrels with concrete and just leave it 3 years.
Oh, really?
That was the winemaking technique. Whichever way you look at it. Anyway, should we pour out now the Barolo? So
yeah, it doesn't look like anybody's going to comment on the sweet wine.
It's a matter of a question. I've asked you something that's virtually impossible. Chineto. Has anyone even heard of it?
No.
There's a kind of vermouth version of Barolo. Chineto. Emma's probably the only one who's heard of it out there. Yeah. It's nice. Oh, God. 27 years of working together. Knows nothing. Anyway, Barolo. She knows a lot, actually. She'll tell you she doesn't know anything, but she's lying. So Barolo is the village, and there are a number of different villages. You can see behind me here, one of my favorite possessions. Look at that. Oh. 3D map of Barolo. Whoa. Adore this map. So this is the actual village of Barolos here in the middle. And La Mora is just down here. This is the village of La Mora. And the wine we're tasting is from Fossate, and so it's from these two villages here. So when you get to Barolo, we start to get really anorak on you. It's quite like Burgundy. Some of you will be Burgundy heads here, and you'll know your Grand Cru villages and the rest of it. Every site has been mapped out, as you can see from that map behind me, and they all have slightly unique characters. So, and this is made by Lapo Berti, and Lapo's a Tuscan who was brought up in Australia. Lapo's hilarious. Emma, you can see Emma shaking her head. Emma loves his wines, but hates his paperwork. He is arguably the worst at paperwork in the history of paperwork people. He is also the winemaker for one of Barolo's most legendary producers, a chap called, Enzo. And his wines are, they're astonishing. So he's a winemaker who rents a few rows of vines. He only makes a couple of hundred bottles, really, so he makes a few barrels. And we're the only people who import it because the quantities are minuscule. So this is a Barolo, but this is a Barolo from a really small producer. And you know, I was muttering earlier on about how expensive the land in Barolo is. My hot tip, if you're going to buy Barolo, is never spend £20 on a bottle of Barolo. It's too cheap. Now, I know you're going to look at me and think 20 quid's a lot of money for a bottle of wine. It is a lot of money for a bottle of wine. When you're buying wine in Barolo, it's not a lot of money because the land is expensive, the demand is very high. Everyone wants the good stuff. So if you're buying cheap stuff, there is something wrong with it. It's like buying a Ferrari for £5,000. You know, be careful. You're buying an expensive product for a lowish price. This is expensive wine. If you want to buy Barolo, you really want to have 35 to 50 quid in your back pocket. If you're paying much less than that, you're probably going to be disappointed. So it's slightly irritating, but that's the way of the world. It's like going to Burgundy. If you want to get a really good bottle of Pinot Noir, don't go to the co-op with 15 quid and expect to get something you're going to enjoy. You're not. Spend the 15 quid on a nice bottle of Argentinian Malbec, on a nice bottle of Chilean Pinot Noir. Don't waste it on a bottle of Burgundy. It won't be good. Buy a nice bottle of Beaujolais. You can get a nice bottle of Beaujolais, 15 quid. So, you know, that's the money bit done. I'm going to show you what Lapo looks like in a minute, which I'm not sure is a good idea or not. Lapo's interested in wine, bicycles, and wine. He's an Australian who's not interested in cricket, which, as things stand at the moment, is a very good thing. He's a really interesting guy. And what makes Barolo special? You've got to age it for 4 years before it's released. So this is 2013 vintage we're giving you now. So this has got a lot of age on it. And you'll feel the tannins on this wine. They're stronger. This is the first one. This has been in oak for 3 years. So can you feel the tannin on this one? What have we got in there? Classy wine. Yeah. It's a totally different style. I'll show you what he looks like anyway. Very natural winemaking. When I say natural winemaking, he uses indigenous yeasts. And that's yeasts that haven't actually been released. So most winemakers in commercial winemaking, you kill all the yeasts that are there naturally, and then you introduce ones which you know work really well. With wines like this, you just let it roll. So I'll show you what the pressing process looks like. There you go. What do you think of that? Nice bit of footwork, as Ronaldo would say. So we've got, there you go. So it's all done pressing by foot, fermented in open barrels, very artisan wine production, this. There's Lapo and I. So Lapo, and he's his winery. This is Enzo Boglietti's winery. None of this stuff is Lapo's. This is all Enzo's wine. Lapo's wine is just 2 barrels inside this winery. This is my job, which is tasting wine, and that's one of Lapo's barrels. Emma must have taken that. There he is. So he's super guy. He's tiny producers. There are very few. There aren't. You know, this is a real oddball wine. It's a collector's piece. This one. This is not the sort of stuff that many people get to see at all. And what do you think? More to the point, what do you all enjoy? What are the best of these reds? We've forgotten to do the prices. Didn't ask you what the Donas. How did they do on the Donas? Em? Were you keeping an eye on it? I wasn't even looking at it.
Yeah, Emma was doing a good job on the chat, and yeah, people were fairly close actually. But
yeah, where are they going to be on the Barolo?
Well, yeah, let's get them to price match the Barolo. But a few people saying that it's too much tannin for them. And I just actually sent one of them a message privately, but actually a couple have said the same thing. So yeah. I would say try it with some food, because
you're right. Yeah,
I mean, Barolo, you wouldn't. For me, you know, this is the sort of wine that you drink when you're having a beef Wellington or something like that was really kind of rich and beautiful. And yeah, I think you wouldn't want to drink it on its own.
I'm with you. I mean, this is a serious food wine. You know, this is not an aperitivo. You know, you don't sit in front of the telly watching your box set with this stuff. This you need food, you need protein, because the acidity is still really nice on it. You feel that freshness in the mouth, even though the tannin level is really high. By the way, do feel free to come out at any point, or come out of mute if you want to ask any questions now. We've got through the wines, so we've done our time, as they say, and so do join in as much or as little as you want there.
I'm nibbling at salamis and cheese, and actually, this feels like a really smooth wine at the moment. It doesn't feel like a high tannin wine. But it's because of the fact that you're, you know, you've got those proteins on the tongue, isn't it? And that totally transforms the wine.
It's true. You're going to have to quickly rush out, you lot. Go, or nip round to Charlie's and nick some of his salami.
Yeah. Or go to Otter's Deli. That would be
better. It's very, very good. And this area, I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you're in Barolo, they don't drink this sort of stuff every day. You know, these are special wines. Even in the old days, you know, these were special wines. So, and actually before global warming, they could never get the Nebiolo as ripe as this. Is much easier to drink than Barolo was when we entered the trade 25 years ago. In those days, people would just say, you can't drink Barolo for 10 years. Now I'd say this is 2013. So 8 years old, and actually it's pretty approachable now. It's not impossible, but if you can give it some time, this will do another 5 years time. I think this will be at its peak. You know, this will be astonishing, actually.
So people are throwing as well. No, there's not many prices.
Not many prices.
We've got a 55. We've got a 65.
No, I'm with you.
Oh, Denise is saying, sorry. Denise is saying, I am eating salami and prosecco, and it's still too much tannins for it. So, well,
but it's a lovely thing, though, isn't it? It's just wine, and you should just drink the wines that you enjoy most. That's what. And if one thing comes out of this tasting, if you discover that you just think, well, do you know what, Barolo, even when it's good, it's just a bit much for me. Don't buy it. You know, it's it doesn't matter how good people tell you it is. If you don't enjoy this style, it's not a good wine for you. And I always think that's the most important thing about wine tastings. It's only one person whose opinion who matters, and it's mine. You know, nobody else matters apart from the person who's drinking the wine. So, yeah, thank you for being honest and telling us what you think.
Richard's put a question out there that actually I was going to ask you myself, which is, if you're going to pick an Italian wine for Christmas Day, what do you pick?
Oh, that's tricky, isn't it? Because I have to do that as well, you know. It's
and why stop at one? I mean, like if you're going to do 3 Italian wine, like, you know, you might.
Well, you've got to have a breakfast one first, haven't you? So you've got to have something
with your quality streets.
Yeah. And probably actually Moscato d'Asti and quality streets is a very fine combination. Or fried panettone in butter with don't think about your heart. If you've got any doctors out there, put your fingers in your ears for a minute. So yeah, butter fried panettone and Moscato d'Asti for breakfast. Very healthy. Then maybe move into Franciacorta for just before church, just to warm you up and help the vocal cords.
And for those of us that don't know what that is, can you tell us what that wine is?
Sparkling wine. So that's Italy's sparkling wine. Very good. So Italy do have champagne versions where they do the same grapes as champagne. The difference is Italy's version, champagne's grown on chalk and it's much colder. The Italian version, I was about to start talking about English sparkling wine. The Italian version is on limestone and it's much warmer. So you get a more richness, they're lovely, lovely wines. If you don't know Franciacorta, well, come and see me. It's fine. We'll talk about Franciacorta. I'm up at the prison if anyone wants. Emerald will put the address on at some point just to tell you how to find us. But Franciacorta mid-morning. And then for lunch, turkey. Turkey's a bastard to match because the classic English feast is such a crazy mix, isn't it? So I wouldn't waste Barolo actually on the classic mix. I think I'd go for a strong Barbera or something like that. What do you think, Charlie? So maybe a Nizza or a Superiore, something.
I think the Barbera is an excellent call, and I think the thing that I usually go to for my Christmas lunch is a Pinot Noir, or therefore a Pinot Nero from Italy would work. So I just think that kind of gives us, it gives everyone, it doesn't take away from what's going on with the Christmas lunch.
I'm with you on that because Pinot Noir is quite light, so it finds it quite hard with some of the flavours. But you're doing New Zealand ones, which are a bit richer and things as well, aren't you, than the Burgundy? So yeah, I'm probably with you on that. Pinot Noir is lovely, but Barbera is quite a similar flavour profile in some ways. I always think Nebiolo and Barbera and Pinot Noir are quite similar, but the tannins of Nebiolo are higher. So if you're having beef, do Nebiolo. If you're doing more sort of Turkish stuff, maybe more Pinot Noir, forse, perhaps. And Vinsanto, of course, to finish.
But do the Pinot Noirs typically come from the northeast of Italy rather than anywhere else?
Yeah, they do. They come from the Sud Tirol or the Alto Adige, so the mountains up there. So Pinot Noir in Italy needs altitude. So if any of you have been skiing in Cortina or up that way, and when you go above the mountains to the north of Venice, that's where you get most of the Pinot Noir. And it's good Pinot. Italy isn't really famous for Pinot Noir. Don't tell anyone, but Italian Pinot Noir is rarely the best. But 2018 is pretty stunning. So there are some really good. We've got one from the Marche, which is breathtaking, and another one from the Colli Orientali, which also is really good. But we also have the really famous ones from the Sud Tirol, and they are not bad, but they are expensive. They're mountain wines. So, they're between 20 and 45 quid for decent Pinot Noir when you go up into the mountains, which it's the same price as New Zealand, really, actually, isn't it, when you look at it?
Well, it's difficult to make, isn't it? So that adds a bit to the price, I suspect.
Yeah. And
did we tell people what this bottle costs? Oh, I think Emma has actually. She's given people.
Yeah, and I see there are questions on how will it age. Will it do 20 years? Probably. Actually, Italian wines do age. It's that combination of acidity and tannin is really interesting. So they're more reliable to age than, say, Bordeaux's. They're more age-worthy than Pinot Noir, for sure. Much more reliable, much more strong. So the 2013 how long would I give that? I'd say maximum age of 25 years from vintage. That's where I'm happy. Some producers my father used to like wine when it was just dead, when everything had collapsed and it tasted like sort of soup. So he would set about 35 years for this wine, which of course I would say was wrong, but he's right because that's how he liked it. Put it by the boiler and serve it at 30 degrees centigrade, which again is criminal. Another useful tip on these is, some of you will be drinking these when they're a bit cooler. So, the cooler it is, the more it emphasizes tannins. Warm the wine up a little bit, the tannins become a little bit softer, but you don't taste all of the delicacy in the wine. It's whatever you like best, really.
But how warm should you serve your wine?
It's the temperature you like, Charlie, is my hot tip on that. But I couldn't care less. All of this food and wine, getting the temperature perfect is, you just do whatever it's what you want to do. I feel like a populist TV presenter for a second there, but kind of feel that, you should just do it how you want to do it. And the temperature of this is, I think, the more alcohol, slightly the lower temperature, because the more alcoholic it is, the more it attacks you in the glass. So you actually want to bring down the temperature. So Amarone, the most alcoholic of all of the Italian wines, serve it a bit cold. Serve it around sort of 16, 15. It's even 12. It's really nice at that temperature. Highly recommended. So, yeah. Any questions?
My last question before we wind up tonight is there's so many different Italian wines that get so much amazing credit. There's obviously, we all know the Chiantis, the Brunello de Montalcinos, the southern wines from like the Primitivos. If you could only drink one Italian wine going forward, what would it be?
I'm a junkie. For those who know us, Emma and I work from Italy in all of February usually, and a bit of January and a bit of March, and we work from the northeast. Nebiolo, it's got to be Nebiolo, and Nebiolo from Gattinara, from Barolo, from Bramatera. Who knows? But it's just Nebiolo is a great type. It's a lifetime of joy. Just as what would be the one that you would choose? One great type of you had to drink for the rest of your life, Charlie.
Well, if it was from Italy, then I think actually
from anywhere, because you don't know
anywhere.
Well, yeah.
I'm going to answer it twice. I am going to stick to an Italian answer, which is Barbera d'Asti, because I do think that is the most. Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe the Primitivo. I love a Primitivo, but if it was only one red wine ever from everywhere, then it would be a New Zealand Pinot Noir, I'm afraid. I love a New Zealand Pinot Noir.
I get that. New Zealand Pinot Noir is lovely. New Zealand Shiraz, adore it. I think I like New Zealand Shiraz more than, I enjoy, I think, New Zealand Chardonnay more than Sauvignon.
Their Sauvignon Blanc or their Pinot Gris are fantastic. Better than their Sauvignon Blancs and their Rieslings, but and even their Gewürz. But anyway, so enough. We've hit an hour and a half of talking about wine. Ben, it's been absolutely fascinating listening to you talk about these wonderful wines and the stories behind them, because ultimately, actually, it's the stories behind them that makes them as fascinating as they are. So thank you so much. Bat and Bottle, obviously based in Oakham. You can find them. Is it bat.wine? Am I right in saying that?
Bat.wine, yeah. That's bat.wine, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me, Charlie. It's been really good fun. Lovely to meet you all. It's been great.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers to you all.
Cheers to everybody. Thank you very much for your support over the last year. And I wish you all a fantastic Christmas. I hope you've enjoyed this evening. If you've got, I'm not going to dial out. I'll let anybody dial out that wants to, but feel free to unmute, have a chat or whatever. But it's been lovely to see you all. Ben has been absolutely brilliant. I'm sure you'll agree. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy the wine.
Yes, it's great.
Cheers.
Yeah. Sadly, the corks.
Thanks very much.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming.
You're very welcome. Nice to see you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Molly, fantastic.
You're welcome.
To see you.
Enjoyed
Nice
it.
to see you, Jeremy and Jane. Nice. Have a great Christmas.
And you.
What's up, fella?
Thank you, Charlie.
Well, we're up there.
I can't even actually work out where these thank yous are coming from, so apologies. But lovely to see so many familiar
Oh,
faces.
Charlie, it's Liz here.
Oh,
Listen, Mark. Bye.
Cheers, everybody.
Christmas, everybody. Right,
Yeah, we're losing them now, Charlie. They're dropping like
Yeah,
flies.
they're dropping like
Diolch yn
flies.
fawr.
We've sent them away. Nobody's going to ask any questions. Nobody's hang around for a drink.
We've talked too much. That's the trouble.
I was going to ask a question actually.
Go
Oh,
on.
please do.
I'll even put my face up. That kind of weird. Someone commented on the weird medicinal flavour, which I totally agreed with, and I think that might have been number 4.
The Rouge de Lisa.
Yes.
I mean, it had a yeah. Why did it really taste like?
Okay.
It had like a really strange taste, and then when
It's
someone
totally
put in
different to all the
medicinal, I
others.
was like, yes.
Yeah, because it's just so different to all the others. Because this one's a mixture of different varieties picked at the same time. So some of the varieties are not right.
Can we show our picture or not?
Yes, go
And
on.
they've just picked everything.
No, we don't
You
have
had
to.
to
Gone totally mad on the whole thing. They've just
share video.
fermented ripe and unripe grapes together. So they've done exactly the antithesis to what modern winemakers do, where you just try and get everything right. They've just said, we're just going to make old school wine. And this is how it was. You know, some grapes are perfectly ripe, some aren't. The quality of the grapes are good, but you just get this extra level of flavors that usually are forced out of the winemaking process by accuracy, for the want of a better word. You know,
Okay.
it
It was certainly odd.
yeah, it's not everyone's taste, is it?
I've just gone back to it. I really like it. I'm not quite. There's a familiarity about it, but I can't quite place where it is. That's why I was kind of asking the question before, because it feels like I've drunk wines like it before, but not many. But I can't quite work out where.
It's kind of rustic though, isn't it? So it could be, it just doesn't taste like a fine wine. You know, when you're looking, you'd never get something, well, there are producers in New Zealand who make wine like this, but this is really raw kind of style winemaking. And he doesn't make very much of this. You know,
Dickon, I'm just going to say that I know exactly what you mean, and I really don't like wines that taste medicinal. But this is where wine's so subjective, because to me,
Absolutely, yeah.
no, this one to me was floral. But where my problem is, 27 years of working with Ben, living way too long with Ben.
She had a way, she's a
Nebiolo. He loves Nebiolo. I struggle with Nebiolo. I find that one really hard on my palate. And when people come in and go, I love a Barolo, I'm thinking, really? Because I almost have to train myself to, and I agree with all those comments, I have to have food with it. And yet I didn't get the medicinal. I had something really amazing going on with like hedges and floral with that. And I hate wines with medicinal. So it's just so weird.
You know, for me, I don't know, I'm sorry, I the whites, I'm sorry, none of them, you know, neither of them. I like agave, sorry, to be.
No, I like Gavi. We've just got, ours will arrive, not in time for Christmas, because.
All right, okay. I mean, that, you know, I'm sorry, they didn't turn me on, but I thought 5 and 6 were amazing. And I'm wondering, I don't know, the six was amazing. And I also like, I mean, I've never really thought, in terms of what Emma was sort of saying, you know, I like, as you say, everything is subjective. And I like what I like. And I laughed hysterically at the person who wrote about 15 quid bottles from Co-op. I thought that was fantastic.
We like that.
But, you know, but in some respects, if you like it and it costs 8 quid from the Co-op, then, you know, then it's like you're a cheap date, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, just imagine enjoying Black Tower or Barefoot Merlot or something.
Oh,
Which
please
one?
stop.
Yeah.
Because can I just say,
Go on.
you're basically, I wanted 3 litres of Othello for £5 when Ben wanted us to sacrifice another week's of food as students for, you know, so that he could try another vintage or something.
Stop treating that as if it's a negative. It's not a negative. Food is not necessary.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose I like the Barolo, but I guess is that also because I like a classy Bordeaux as well. You know, I like a Margaux.
The fineness of the structure, I think,
Is that what it is? I'm just a snob.
corrupted you. Yeah. Yeah, you've just got expensive taste. You've done it to yourself, mate.
but the only place I've ever actually been in terms of wine making is I have been to Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was back in, it's probably, you still can't probably get there by public transport, but it was back in '96. And then I think I got the train to whatever is nearby. I can't remember what's near, Avignon.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a local train to Sorgue.
Yeah.
And I had to hitchhike from Sorgue to Châteauneuf-du-Pape, the village, because I was 20 and I couldn't drive. And I remember basically going on a mission to go to Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and then of course it was a Saturday or something, and they were all closed. But then I got in somewhere, and then basically I bought a few bottles from this guy, and then I realized I was talking to the actual vinificateur, the actual guy who made the wine, and then he gave me lift backs, and I was all right.
Yeah, but
yeah, no. So it's not only Bordeaux. I do like a.
No, there's no reason. I mean, they're all great, aren't they? But what a lot of people don't realise on these, you know, someone like Lapo Berti, you can't pop in and see him. He just works all the time. He doesn't exist. The only vineyards that you can sort of go and see are the big boys, you know, have got tasting rooms, and in Barolo, the only ones who've really got tasting rooms are the big producers, and you can go there and you can do a big flash. If you want a really good tasting in Piemonte, the best place to go is go and stay with Andrea at Villa, the guy who does that Barbera Dasti, because he'll do you a full. He's mad as a March hare. If he's around, he'll give you a full tasting in his agriturismo with his Mrs. Zara. And he's this Swiss businessman's just hired him to go and take on another Barolo estate as well. So his business is much bigger now, but he just doesn't behave like it yet. So get to Villagiarda before Andrea starts behaving like a Barolo producer, because a lot of these.
Can I just add in, if you really want an amazing Barolo tasting, go to Matteo Ascari. His hotel is incredible. He is now the head of the consortio as well. So the restaurant at his place that his sister runs. So 2 things, 1 trip, and out 40 minutes apart. Go to Giarda, more basic, beautiful meal, really intimate treatment, and then go to Ascari, where you probably won't meet the man anymore, but you will get a guided tour around the cellars and have an incredible experience, and then get a cheap flight home.
And next year do an official portfolio tasting in Torino, maybe, and just
the only problem I've got there is that my wife literally doesn't drink red wine, and she doesn't really like white wine either. you basically
all right with food. How's food?
Yeah, she loves her food, but
fine. Yeah. Yeah.
And the only way to get us to drink wine.
They've started making a really lovely fruit beer that's based on the
That's
Nebiolo
great.
ones.
Yeah.
Now that might be okay. No, the only way to get us to drink wine is she will just about drink some Ned or Brancott, and then it has to also, or it's just a dessert wine, and then it's sweet enough, then she'll drink it. But
Racchetto, Moscato d'Asti, we're in.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't think I've been fortunate enough to have a good Moscato though.
They do exist.
I don't disagree with you, but I haven't yet.
There's a lot of poo out there, because like Charlie was saying earlier when he said, "Where's all the prosecco come from?" There's a Moscato producer where the factory bottles faster than you can blink. So the wine is going through so fast, and that's where they do nearly all of the prosecco now, because most prosecco is commercial filth, really, and that's where most of it is just whizzing through the bottling lines faster than the eye can see. 4 lines moving at full tilt.
That would be impressive. But I saw a video about the new Tesla factory. The new Tesla factory in Berlin is kicking out a Model Y every 45 seconds. I don't. A bottle of wine every few seconds is impressive. A car every 45 seconds that's
mental.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we should let you guys go. And so it's been an absolutely brilliant evening for me, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. I've really enjoyed the wine. I hope you guys have enjoyed the wine. Ben and Emma, thank you so much for your wonderful expertise on the Italian wine. If you want to find these guys, like I say, bat.wine, or go find them in Oakham. On a Saturday morning is the best time to go find them in Oakham.
Yeah, look on the website. It says whether we're open or not. We're what we call an inconvenience store. We're kind of open when we're here, and otherwise we're shut.
And in the meantime, have a wonderful Christmas, everybody. And I'll wind it up there. But thank you so much. And we'll see you in the new year.
Cool. Good night, Charlie. Night all.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.